halfway home, guys, and we're
Moving
going.
on.
So we had the light listening, and now the
Yeah,
back end's going to
we're
be a little bit
ramping
more
up.
the
Yeah.
challenging fare.
Yes,
So
yes,
Matt, what
yes.
are we starting with?
So this is XTC's English Settlement, a double album, which we were supposed to cover back when we covered
sure was.
1999, but we didn't want to do two
Yeah.
double albums, so we moved this back. But this is number 156 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums, number 16 in 1982, number 1028 of all time. It is XTC's second highest rated album on Best Ever Albums, behind 1986's Skylarking, which we are going to cover in a full episode at some point. And XTC comes in at number, 164 in overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums, so pretty highly ranked there. Not on Rolling Stone's list. And John, and this is not a Josh special, so John, do you remember where this comes from?
Flashcards, the post-punk flashcards.
So this is post-punk? Okay.
Well, they called it post-punk. Yes.
Wow. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, we are now using that too loosely. But anyway, so Josh, you start this one.
Yeah. Yeah, so XTC is one of those bands that I feel like I thought was electronica or something, or I may be thinking of another band, and I've always heard their name thrown around and never listened to them or didn't really know them. And I really like this album. It really grew on me the more I listened to it. There's something, I was trying to really nail down what I liked about it, and it's very British in the way that some of the bands like the Kinks and some of the like the Buzzcocks,
The Jam.
and the Jam, and some of the other bands that we've listened to have been, but they're also they're not only British, but they're kind of like new wavy and poppy in a way that I wasn't able to define very well. They kind of reminded me at the Police at times, but more poppier. And they have an interesting way of structuring their songs in that they kind of, I don't know, they kind of like sing the choruses in different ways. They kind of go up and down when they sing the choruses, or like kind of like they go up in the chorus when they go down in the guitar or something like that, or vice versa, if that's making sense. They also have a slightly kind of like British folk nature to them in a way. They it's a bit, I don't know, pastoral, I guess, in some ways. But the main thing that really hooked me on this album is their choruses. They have a way of writing their songs, and the more you listen to the songs, the more you want to sing along to them. And that's pretty consistent throughout the album. Even though it's over an hour, I found myself liking the songs and being attracted to different ones each time I listened through it. Like a lot of British bands too, they incorporate some ska, or influenced by ska, especially on the back half, like on songs like Knuckle Down and Down in the Cockpit. Again, fun to sing along to. And they're good. There's like a repetition, but in a good way, that the songs get stuck in your head. Examples of this would be like Ball and Chain or No Thugs in Our House, which was hilarious. And it just kind of has this pleasant feel to it. There's a song called It's Nearly Africa on here that kind of incorporates horns and has some like African instrument or vibe to it. And the other band that kind of I feel like they're indebted to is The Who. I feel like this is a later kind of, or The Who is a precursor to them in the Britishness of it, but also the way that they have their structure their songs, and their I think also too that they have, I think indie rock is kind of indebted to them in some ways, probably British indie rock especially. I was trying to think of modern analogs to them, but I couldn't come up with any. But this is just kind of a strong British pop album, if I had to boil it down, and I really enjoyed listening to it.
I think we could take everything you just said and do the exact opposite of that. Is how I felt about this record. I really disliked this album.
Whoa,
This
wow.
really did very little for me. I found it annoying. I found the repetition not pleasant at all. I was just I really disliked it. The more I listened to it, I was like, yeah, this is not doing much for me. I could not really get through it too many times before I was just like,
wow,
yeah, I'm good. It's just not for me. The ska stuff at the end was like, just okay. And you guys know how I feel about that anyway. But I just found, the melodies didn't really do much for me. I found that the staccato nature of
that's a good way of putting it.
the music, just, I don't know. It was, it never really grabbed me, and I found it annoying. I found the songs went too long. I found I'm just looking at the track listing here. Like Melt the Gun, like yes, definitely it sticks in your head, but not for me, not in a good way. Like Melt the Guns.
Yeah.
Found that annoying. I didn't think that the Jason and the Argonauts, I thought that was annoying. Senses Working Overtime was probably the highlight for me. I thought that chorus was actually really good. That was that to me was a much more upbeat, catchy type of song. But yeah, man, this was, and I was kind of surprised because I do have an XTC album that came out from like the late 90s or whatever, and that had some good songs on it. I'm not terribly in love with that one either. And maybe, I don't know, you're right, it does have that British nature to it, that it's very British sounding. But I don't know if that's necessarily what it was. The songs just really did not do much for me. And it was, for being a double album, and not really connecting with any of the choruses, finding the repetition annoying, and just not grasping really onto much of anything. And then at the end, that's when the ska kind of kicked in, and I was like not really feeling that either. Snowman was okay, but
so Snowman's like perfectly like
cromulent,
indicative of what this album is like.
I don't know, man. I listened to this probably 3 times, and I was like, after the third time, I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to go. I went back to the other ones. I'm like, give me more Holy Diver, give me more Huey Lewis. I would rather listen to that than this. Yeah, I just not connecting with me really at all. I'm a thumbs down.
Wow.
I like this album a lot more than Matt did. And this album really
that's not hard.
really grew on me. It's one of the few albums I can say that each time the first time I listened to it, I didn't completely connect with it. There were elements I liked, but I didn't love it, right? And then the second time I listened to it, I really started to find that I connected with probably about half of the album pretty comfortably. And then by the third time I listened to it, I would say I liked the vast majority of the album. I mean, it's a lot as a double album. It doesn't have to be a true double album. I'd say maybe a few too many clips.
Yeah.
With that, or tracks, I should say. With that being said, it worked for me. It has the central theme, I think, throughout it is one thing Josh mentioned, which is those like escalator lyrics, which the song I always think of I don't know a ton of XTC, but the song I always think of is the song called The Mayor of Simpleton, is the XTC song that comes to mind for me immediately. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's like okay, that's like the perfect example of this, like what I call the escalator lyrics. It's like they go up, down, and they don't build up to a crescendo, right? They go, like you said, it's like that specific song is like, now I know I don't wanna it keeps going up, and then it's like, and I may be the mayor of Simpleton, so it's like going up and down, like kind of like a heartbeat monitor. And it's the same kind of idea that's on a lot of these tracks. The other thing is the drumming in this. The drumming is very heavy and upfront at times, and kind of like a lot of it is as Matt said, he said the guitar staccato, which fits, but the drumming kind of does the same thing that a staccato guitar riff does in terms of the sonic palette of the songs, in my opinion. But yeah, there's a lot of humor in these lyrics, I found. Josh mentioned No Thugs in Our House, which cracked me up. It does have the slice of life that we talked about in bands like
that
Madness.
Working classness.
Yep, yeah. The Madness, or the Kinks, or different bands we talked about that kind of go into that sort of almost rusticy, or I guess suburban's the wrong word, like working class British life. It genre dives a little bit like the Specials do. I wouldn't say it sounds like the Specials outside of a couple of the later tracks have ska elements. It's got some of what the English beat have for sure, and then it's later picked up. I think of bands like the Kaiser Chiefs, like very much operate in this lane later. I thought of them quite a bit as I listened to this, because sonically they sound a little bit like this. That's who immediately came to mind for me. If like you listen to this album as like if you're listening to a Kaiser Chiefs album, the Fratellis a little bit is in that same lane as well, if you want sort of modern lanes. But yeah, this album really grew on me, and I appreciated the fact that it was somehow both familiar but also different from what we listened to before. It is a British album, but I didn't find it to be so British that I couldn't connect with it in terms of cultural touch points. The themes were a little bit more universal to me, and I liked how it sounded. I think the sonic element of it for Matt just seems like it really didn't connect. I think it might have had the opposite view on me, where it was a sound that was pleasant to me after a while, but not immediately. I had to listen to it multiple times to get there, but once I did, it became a real earworm for me, both in terms of the lyrics and the songs themselves, but also musically. Like, I just as much hear like parts of the music running through my head after listening to it a few times, as well as just any specific set of lyrics. So yeah, I like this one. I'd give this one a thumbs up for sure.
Yeah, I had the similar. It didn't click with me right away, but then when the more I listened to it, the more I got into it. For sure.
And I wonder too, for me, like I had a very negative reaction the first time I heard it. Like I think part of it too was I was expecting to like it more, and the longer it went, I was like, no, I don't like this. No, I don't like that. And I think that also poisoned the well to an extent, because the second time I listened to it, I think my mind had closed on it. I think I kind of had made the judgment fairly strongly after one listen.
That's honest, yeah.
And so I could see what you're saying. I could see this being one that would grow on you, or that because it's definitely different. There's some discordant stuff going on. There is the little bit of a chaotic nature of what he's doing with his voice. You know, it's jumping kind of all over the place. You know, and it's drawing from a lot of different areas. So I could see, like, just generally speaking, something like that could take a while to get into and reward multiple listens. But like I said, I just had such a negative reaction, and I listened to it again, and that didn't do much better. And the third time, I'm convinced I'm not going to like this. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. It was really, really weird. I just kept waiting for the next song to kind of grab me or for me to get it, and it didn't happen. Sense working overtime. That chorus, I liked that a lot. Not really much other than that. So sorry, guys.
It's a big ask too. I wonder if the fact that it's a double album for a band that we haven't listened to before, that I was trying to think if that's happened with other bands. And you know, a double album's always kind of an undertaking, and if you're not on board, you know, for an intro to a band, double album's not like a good place to start, I would say. So I'm wondering if we had started with some other album, maybe it would have.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do another one of theirs, right? So I'm interested to hear that one. You know, it could be different. It certainly didn't help here, right? Because it just prolonged the unpleasant thing, right? If this was like a 30-minute album, I'd be more palatable. But as it went on, and then it started hitting the ska stuff, which didn't really, again, you know how I feel about that. But a lot of the bands that you guys also said, I don't really connect with, you know, like what you said, the Madness and the Specials. It's stuff that I've been like lukewarm on it, probably at best. Actually, if I think about this, there's Elvis Costello in here too, which probably of all of them, I like Elvis Costello the best. Yep. And those other bands, the more modern bands that you mentioned, John, like Kaiser Chiefs and Fratellis, I do like those bands. So I don't know if I heard.
You didn't hear the Kaiser Chiefs in this? That was the very clear line.
I heard some, but I like the Kaiser Chiefs musically. I mean, the structure of their songs I like better. If this was a little
I feel like I Predict a Riot could have been written by this band in many ways. It's a very similar.
I don't hear anything on here that's I don't know.
Like the chorus. You like how they sing the chorus? And
Yeah, the voice, vocals definitely, but to me, they didn't have there wasn't a chorus on here that was maybe again, Census Working Overtime, it was a strong one, but to me, I didn't really hear a lot of strong choruses. So yeah, I think this is just going to be chalked. It's just like it's like you set off the firecracker and it's just a dud, and it's just a dud. It just didn't work, So, but
fair enough. I'm a sucker for that like galloping drums that go into trailing drums, which is a constant sound on this. I was trying to explain it earlier, but it's like that, the dun 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 where it's like it gallops and then it trails into the songs, and that's something that is constant on the albums. It's being played and then it like leads to like a part outside of the chorus where it's like a double crash and sometimes a cymbal at different times, like a double hit and then a cymbal, and then it picks back up, and then it's like dun, dun, and then going along, and then that's a constant throughout the sound, and that's actually a very appealing sound to me, drum wise. So I think that's another thing I wanted to mention. So, and I like the variety. It didn't bore me, and for a double album that's an hour long, I appreciate the fact that it didn't say, they're writing the same song over and over again, because they weren't. They did enough things to at least justify 14 tracks. So yeah, I like this one.
And Matt, did you say where was this rated on Best Ever Albums in terms of their band album?
It's second highest, so it's behind Skylarking from '86, which we're a ways away from covering that. But I think you're doing that one. I was just looking, Josh. You're going to be doing the history of them. So
okay, good to know.
That's the same week we do Slayer and Peter Gabriel.
Wow, that's
a dichotomy.
Well, maybe not Peter Gabriel, but like definitely Slayer, yeah. But they're their